Welcome. We're live with a very special guest. I'm Nico, your weekend update correspondent with comicbookinvest.com, and this is Comic Book Strategic Investment. Today, I'm joined by my friend Trent Claus from Spawn World. Trent, can you please introduce yourself to our live audience?
Sure. Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm, as you said, Trent Claus. I run and perpetrate SpawnWorld.com. It's a one-man show, so it's just me. I've run it for 20 years now.
Oh my goodness! I when I say that you are the premier expert on Todd McFarlane's Spawn, I say that including him. I've never seen anything like what you've done. It is truly awesome.
Well,
yeah, for those who are unfamiliar, can you tell them a little bit about Spawn World?
Sure. Yeah, I started Spawn World 20 years ago, as I say, built off of my inventory list for my own collection. So I had my own collection going. I had an inventory list that I had started to share with some other fellow collectors. So then I decided to build a website out of it and started Spawn World and have gone on from there. And so in the site, I try to have a page basically for every single comic, anything that's Spawn related. So every comic, every toy, just absolutely everything that has anything to do with Spawn. And then I also write the encyclopedia, the Spawn encyclopedia. So basically every proper noun that's ever been uttered in the comics has an encyclopedia entry. There's about 1,400 now that have all been written, and images have been added for everything, and everything's cross-referenced too. So there's links to everything, and there's something like 2.3 million links on the site, linking everything together. It's enormous spider web.
My understanding is that just yesterday you dropped what may be the most important article to at least the viewers of this show. Can you talk a little bit about that article?
Sure. Yeah. So there's always this debate, about what the first appearance of whatever is. Not necessarily Spawn. It could be anything. And the comic collectors.
It's all 180.
Right, or is it 181?
No, it's 181.
But that's the argument. Like, is it the first full appearance where the character has like a part in the story, or is it, what if they just have a cover appearance? Does that count? It's on a comic book, but they had no impact on the story whatsoever. So does it still count? Or what if like Harley Quinn? If they appear in a different media first, do you count that as the first appearance, or are we just comic book snobs and it has to be the first comic book?
That's the issue.
So there's so many like nuanced factions in comic collecting that will scream at you that they're correct. And then on top of that, you look on eBay, and everybody and their uncle is selling the first appearance of something, and everybody is saying that it's something different. And Spawn is no different. There's lots of different advertisements and previews and all sorts of things that came out before Spawn #1. And everybody says that the one that they're selling is the one that's the first appearance. So I really wanted to get to the bottom of it. So I spent almost a year researching it. So every appearance that anything that had anything to do with Spawn before Spawn #1. So from the very first time Todd uttered the word Spawn to the point where the comic came out, I wanted to have a timeline for every single one of those appearances. And that's what the article is. So it lays out in
I
a
don't want to spoil the answer because I want people to go to your website to get the answer. But I've read the article. There is an answer.
Yeah,
and I think it'll satisfy people too.
Yeah, well, and there's something for everybody there because I break it down. I give awards to everything. There's the first visual appearance. There's the first time, you see anything about his supporting cast, like Violator. There's the first time that you see him with green eyes. There's the first time he's on a cover. There's the first time he's on a cover of a publication. All sorts of different awards, that I created, so that everybody can judge for themselves. Pick what they think is the first appearance.
Now, Trent, if I wasn't acutely aware of the amount of money that people were spending on Spawn Comics, if I was just an outsider looking at what you've done, I would be like, oh, well, he's psychotic. This is insane. I've never seen anything like this, the amount of time. But you're not alone. Spawn has somehow captured the hearts of, an unbelievable amount of people in our community. What the heck is that? What is that all about? How did that happen?
It's owed all to Todd's stubbornness. I think he's been unwilling to let the character go. He's been unwilling to let other people take him someplace he doesn't want him to go, and he's been unwilling to stop. Even when numbers dwindled, he just kept pumping out book after book, every month, and that's both stubborn and admirable perseverance. It's like really this is his baby. He wants it to survive past him. So I think it's owed all to that. And we were just kind of discussing we are about the same age. For us, the birth of Image Comics was such a monumental thing. I was 13 when Spawn came out.
Me too. Maybe 12. I don't know.
Math,
Yeah, somewhere in there.
And it was huge for me at the time because it was just like the sweet spot of comic collecting, 13-year-old. But it wasn't just me. It was the whole industry. It was this unique period of time where they were superstars. They were rock stars, not lowly comic book artists, toiling away in their basements. They were suddenly on the cover of magazines, and they were appearing on talk shows, and it was a crazy time. And I think that.
How old were you in that photo?
That one with Todd, that was probably 7 or 8 years ago, something like that.
Where was that? That's Wolf's Portacio, obviously.
That's in San Diego Comic-Con. So I'm talking to Todd there about Spawn World. That's
where you broke the news.
Yeah.
Like, you did what?
I was explaining the encyclopedia to him because I really wanted him to. I'm a big lover of continuity. I love it when they do callbacks to characters that haven't been in the comic for 50 issues or 80 issues or something. So I really want the writers to make use of that. And I've on the backside, I've talked to some writers for Spawn in multiple different occasions where they're wondering, was there a name for that demon that that appeared, blah blah blah, or was there ever a bad guy that did this and this? I need somebody for what I'm writing, and I'm like, yeah, it's the Gatekeepers from issue 84, or whatever.
It's awesome.
I try to help out in that regard.
Now, you travel in what I can only describe as some pretty awesome circles. You were kind enough to share with me before we started that you work in Hollywood. Will you tell people a little bit about what the perpetrator of Spawn World does for a day job?
So yeah, my hobby is Spawn World, but it's just a hobby. I've never had ads on the side or anything like that. I just I keep it just for fun. My day job, I work in movies, and I'm a VFX, or I should say visual effects supervisor. And I've worked on over 120 movies, 20 of which were Marvel Studios films. I started on the first Iron Man, their very first film, and I've had something to do with every movie since then, except for the Thor movies. Those are the only ones I haven't touched.
Yeah, you're a humble guy. Can you tell us a little bit about your VFX award for your work on Captain America, the First Avenger?
Yeah. So that was for the shrinking of Captain America. So for the first third of the movie, Chris Evans plays a slightly younger Steve Rogers that is, as the comics say, a 90-pound weakling. And he's supposed to be this little tiny scrawny guy who can't make it in boot camp and that sort of thing. And the filmmakers really wanted Chris Evans to play that part all the way through. They didn't want to do a actor switch after he gets the serum or something like that. And so they came to us. I work for a company called Lola Visual Effects, and we kind of specialize in human stuff, faces and bodies and that sort of thing. And so it was our task to make Chris Evans that skinny guy through that first third of the movie. So it's in a lot of ways like hand animation, because we're going through frame by frame and resculpting anatomy and reshaping the clothes that he's wearing, how things, how the shirt hangs off of him makes a big difference. Like if on set, big, strong Chris Evans is doing push-ups and stuff, the fabric on his shirt is stretched, across those muscles. And then when you make him the skinny guy, if the fabric is still stretched, the audience is going to figure out the gag, so you have to completely replace virtually everything. And it's not just the body too, the face, we're sucking out fat from the cheeks and reducing like bone structure in the jaw and just making him look like this much, much smaller guy, so that when he gets the super soldier serum and becomes Captain America, the audience is wowed, and it.
Hell, I'm wild just hearing you talk about it. I mean, I saw it done, and yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, I never
compliment we ever got was for that one was after a screening, someone in the audience asked the producers how we made him look so big and strong. They thought the skinny guy was the real guy, and that the big guy was the effect, and it was the inverse. So that was cool to hear.
That's strong, good stuff, man. Oh my goodness, you are a big comic collector.
I am. Yeah, I almost, these days anyway, I almost strictly do Spawn, but I have certainly one of the largest Spawn collections in the world. There's one other guy that I have a playful rivalry with.
Really?
But we're good friends, so it's a lot of fun.
All right, so this is the one that takes my breath away. If you're trying to watch it on your cell phone, stop and go and stream it on your TV so you can see it. It's absolutely unbelievable.
Well,
can you tell us about this?
Yeah, that photo took. Let's see. I'm trying to do the quick math in my head. 23 years, I think, of searching. So that's every Spawn #1 from around the world. So it's 59 versions from 29 different countries. Plus there's an error version from the US in there to make it even 60. But a lot of this was done. I started collecting these in '97, so it was not pre-internet, but certainly like the early days of the internet. And it wasn't the resources that we have now. There was nothing even close back then. So there was a lot of networking, just through people I knew or trying to get in touch with people. I contacted publishers in lots of different countries. And once message boards became a thing, I started joining local comic collecting message boards in all sorts of different countries and trying to introduce myself in their language and say, hello, I'm this guy from America, and I just want your Spawn issues. Can you send them to me? And I actually collect 1 through 10 from every country around the world. And so what you see here is issue 1. I also am working on issue 2 through 10, but I'm missing 6 issues, 6 total issues to complete the full set. I'm so close.
That's unbelievable.
It's been a long journey.
I mean, this is unbelievable. Just this photo. The way that Matt describes Mattroybel, for those who are not familiar, he is a treasure to the foreign language comic collecting community. If you're not watching him and John Z on Global Comic Safari, please do yourself a favor and check them out. Hopefully, Trent will join the two of them sometime in the near future to kind of really dig into this topic with people who understand it well enough to ask him the questions that I wouldn't even know to ask. But the way that I hear Matt describe this is that this set has gravity, right? That it just has weight, and that being in its presence is in and of itself has a grounding effect. And I get it. I get it just seeing a picture of it. And it's particularly amazing because you started before there were Facebook groups, before there was even the back channel CGC conversations.
Yeah, none of that was around. eBay was barely just around.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. It makes me feel old. That's what it does.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing what you've been able to do. Talk to us about this.
So that's a freebie I put up on Spawn World, and it's to celebrate Spawn 300. Spawn hit issue 300 last summer, and it was the second U.S. independent comic to do that. First one was Serum. And it became then the first U.S. independent comic to hit 301. So it has the record now, and presumably will for a very long time because he has no intentions of stopping. But this poster, and there's great big sizes of it on the site, so people can print it out if they want a poster size.
Wow.
It's pulled from my encyclopedia. So here is a thumbnail image of every character that had appeared from issue 1 up until issue 300. Every single one. That it took a little while.
I can't imagine. A labor of love. I mean, if Spawn World is anything, it is a labor of love and a true expression for your appreciation of undoubtedly the greatest comic creator of my generation.
Yeah, I love comics, and as we said, Spawn hit at a time when I was impressionable, if nothing else, and I've just stuck with it. You know, just like Todd has. I've been diligent to buy it every week or month, and you know, stayed on board.
Yeah, can you tell me, do you have some favorites?
Books, toys, characters. What do you want to do? Let's.
Well, let's try to do it in that order.
Books.
What do you like? Yeah, I mean, there's some where you're like, oh, well, I might not be the most valuable, but like, I love this book.
Yeah, that one's. There's a lot. There's a lot I like, and there's a lot that didn't hit the mark for me. Spawn has periods, you know, like any comic, and you might or you might not be shocked to discover how many people read the first 12 issues of Spawn up until the famous issues that were guest written by like Neil Gaiman and Frank Miller and those guys, and then they dropped off. and they judge the entirety of Spawn on those first 12 issues. And they'll tell you that they don't like it or whatever, but they haven't read it. They haven't even tried. Like, imagine judging X-Men on only the first 12 issues. It's
It'd be problematic.
So many things happen, that add to the whole universe after that. So favorites. I really like stories. One thing that really grabbed me about Spawn is the religious fantasy, like angels and demons and heaven and hell and that the big picture stuff. I really like that, and so I really gravitate to the stories that have that, as opposed to the more superhero-y stuff and the big guns and stuff. A lot of people like that, but that's not really my cup of tea. I like it for the dark and spooky stuff and the angels and demons. I like that. I really like. There was a short-lived series called Spawn the Undead that I think it only, off the top of my head, I think it only had 9 issues. It was a spin-off, but that was a great series where it was almost like a TV template where each issue or episode, Spawn was hunting down the influence of either heaven or hell on a person. So in the world of Spawn, both heaven and hell are basically equal. They both corrupt and manipulate humans to their own desire. One isn't necessarily good, one isn't necessarily evil, and they manipulate humans, and Spawn is against that. He's trying to remove their influence on us, and that series, each issue, he kind of finds a human that's been manipulated by one of them and kind of does a detective type story, and I really liked that series. Are
there newsstand variants of Spawn the Undead?
No, there's not.
Okay.
That was off the top of my head anyway.
When was it published? In 1999?
90s, late 90s, early.
Yeah, 90s? I mean, I'm like, shouldn't that have gone to the spinner rack?
It could have, because Spawn didn't stop newsstands until 2004, I think. It was the last Image comic to produce newsstand issues.
If there were newsstand variants of Spawn the Undead, they're no longer on eBay here. So we lost our chance. That would have been one of those questions I should have asked you when we were not on the air.
Right. Well, if you want the pro tip, there's another spinoff called Curse of the Spawn. Also 90s, where there's one issue 17, that for whatever reason, the newsstand issue of Curse of the Spawn 17 is one of the rarest Spawn comics ever.
Wow.
I'm only aware of 5 copies.
Oh my God.
There might be more out there, but believe me, I've been looking for 2 decades now, and I can't find them. So,
is that the last issue of the series?
No, it's right in the middle.
It's a random issue.
Yeah, totally random. Yeah, it's a
wow.
Definitely one of the rarest Spawn comics, if not the rarest. But it's not the most sought after. So it's not necessarily the most valuable. Most people don't even know it exists till now. Now I ruined it.
Well, hopefully, maybe you drive some to market. Do you have one?
I do. I have 2.
Okay, good. All right. Just making sure. I was going to say, because if you didn't, I was going to say, please, if you have one, we'd like to provide it to Trent.
There's only one U.S. Spawn comic that I don't have that I'm aware of.
I find this criminal already. So,
but I'm not going to tell you which one it is, because
okay.
I still got for it.
Yeah, no question about it. Yeah, I also am like mildly disturbed that there's actually a comic that you don't have.
And it's so like under the radar, nobody even knows that it's something to look for. So,
wow, neat. I love it. Trent,
But it
killing
on
it.
the site. You know, if people dig, you know, I haven't like withheld it from the site or anything, so it's out there.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Now, see, this is one that I loved was the spasm, the splitting image newsstands.
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious. I mean, that's the kind of like just too funny sort of stuff. There were what 3 different covers to splitting image number 1?
Something like that, yeah. And then there was, I think, a second issue.
Or I'm sorry. Okay, it says right on the site there were 4 different back covers to this issue.
There you go. Yeah, there's. I have a whole section on parodies on the site.
Yeah, because there's spasm and there's what spoon,
spoon, yeah, and stupid.
Stupid. That was a good one. Yeah.
And I just discovered in that article for Spawn first appearances, I just discovered the very first parody. It came out before issue number 1. And it was called Spend.
Oh, get out of town.
Yeah.
That's wild. That was absolutely wild.
It was a comic strip. It was in Comic Buyer's Guide. So it wasn't published independent, separately.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I love, and I take it this is kind of how this happened for you is you learned this stuff that was fascinating and then thought, well, I got to share it with the world.
Yeah, and it really started with the toys because at the time, Spawn toys were huge, and there were so many variants when it comes to Spawn figures that I was trying to catalog every single variant, so I could collect them.
I remember when we were kids, it was Angela without any underwear. That was a thing. People got excited about it.
They nicknamed it Party Angela.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Now, does that command a premium these days or not so much?
Not so much. The smaller variations have really fallen off, collectors' radars. But there are a few like key rare Spawn figures that are still really, really sought after. There's probably the most valuable or most rare is this completely translucent figure that they released, and there's said to be only like 10 of them or something. It's it's really, really rare. It's for a character called Necro Cop, issue or series like 31, I think maybe.
No hands, guys. You like that? We're high tech here. Oh wow.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm not even going to ask whether or not you have one.
I do. Well, that's mine. So every photo.
I knew the answer.
Every toy, every comic, everything on Spawn World, for the most part, is mine. I think there's less than 10 images that aren't mine.
Oh man, that is awesome. Unbelievable. Now, we've heard a lot of discussion about a forthcoming Spawn film.
Sure.
Right? Todd is one of the last.
Yeah.
He's one of the last great hype men left. Most people are annoying when they do it. With him, you're like, oh, good, it's still coming. I feel reassured now. Thanks. And initially, he earmarked major Hollywood celebrities for roles, right? I mean, it wasn't just Jamie Foxx, which is who everybody heard about, but Clint Barton, right? Yeah, was apparently going to. Who was he set to be?
He was going to play
Twitch. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So, all right. I wanted to make sure that I was like thinking of the comic iteration. I was like, he doesn't look like Jeremy Renner, but I'll go with it. Yeah. Do you think that we'll see a Spawn film in the next 5 years? I mean, if you're a betting man.
I think it's likely. I don't think I would put my own money on it. But it's definitely a high possibility. He has been working on it for 20 years or something. And
more likely a television series or a film.
I don't know. I think there are many collectors like myself that would prefer a TV show. I loved the Spawn animated series.
Make that 2.
I'd love to see that end because it ended abruptly. It didn't have a true ending or anything. And they did produce portions of the next season. Way back in the Dark Ages, he he recorded all the audio, all the actors for the next season, but they just never made it to the animation portion. So it'd be cool to see that come out, or just start fresh. I'd be cool with that too. Make a really cool dark animated show again to look forward to. That'd be great.
But a live action show, you don't necessarily think that's something we can look forward to?
I think it's a lot harder. I think he'd have a lot easier time getting the animated show off the ground. But if anybody can do it, McFarlane can. He's where there's a will, there's a way, and he's got a hell of a will. If people weren't making the action figures he wanted, he said, "Screw it, I'll just make them myself." And look at him now.
He makes everyone's action figures.
Action figure world, yeah. And so if he wants it done, and I'm sure he can get it done. I think he's just holding out for all of his stipulations. I think that's probably what's holding it up, but I don't really know.
People pay an incredible amount of money for Spawn comic books. I mean, it's like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
it's not just the first issue or the first appearance, or like one or two rare variants. There are dozens of comics that are at least $1,000 a pop.
Yeah, there's a lot, and they're climbing too. Every issue of Spawn is on the rise right now. I think that a lot of that owes to the fact that it hasn't ever been renumbered. It's still the same series since issue number 1. People don't have to track down, the volume 2 or volume 6 or the weird renumberings that have happened on other books. It's something you can make sense of. Collectors can hunt, and that's fun. For a collector, you want to complete the set. You want to hunt down every issue and every version of every issue.
But it's not just the comics and the variants. I mean, it's the previews. Spawn basically solidified and legitimized this idea of a preview appearance or a true first or whatever the hell you want to call it, even though, as I think your article does a masterful job of explaining, a lot of the true firsts aren't really so much true firsts. Yeah, but it's unbelievable. Can you kind of, do you attribute that to anything? I mean,
I just think, well, it's a popular character. Even amongst people that don't really read it, they are certainly aware of Spawn, and they think he's cool looking. And I would bet that there's a lot of collectors that don't actually even read it. They're just trying to complete the set. And as far as the spin-off stuff and the previews and things like that, it's all about hunting down all the rare things. There's if we can get philosophical for a second,
please.
I think collectors are always trying to fill this void, and Spawn is unique in that issue number 1, the big issue that should be the hardest to buy and most expensive and stuff like that, just isn't, because there were over 2 million of them. There's huge supply for Spawn number 1. So collectors just naturally try and fill this void for something to hunt for by looking for all these other little things, the previews and the rare error copies and things like that, to try and create.
He's got those too, right?
Yeah. To try and create that holy grail, that they can't have with Spawn number 1. Just my theory.
No, it's really insightful. Can we talk a little bit about the errors, again, like the true firsts?
Yeah.
He's got a couple that are monsters.
Yeah. So, every comic has errors, printing errors, some more minor than others. And Spawn's no different. I would bet that every issue that comes out, there's some small number of error copies that make it to the market. But most people don't care. Most people don't collect them. But with Spawn, it just so happens that issue number 1, which is so plentiful, has some errors that are very, very rare. And they aren't just like, there's like an extra copyright mark or, or something like that, something ridiculous. It's a big, very visible error where the black ink was either entirely missing or it's very, very uneven. And you get like big streaks and things like that. There's a couple different varieties that have been found, but there's very, very few of those. I would bet that there's fewer than 20. They're really, really hard to find. But they're cool. It's something that is, sought after for sure. What you've got on the screen there, the issue number 1 has an error that most people don't even acknowledge, really. That Spawn icon that's on the inside cover came out in 2 varieties. There's this one I call the and then the other one I call the clean. And according to McFarlane, they came out in about 50-50 ratios. So it's relatively easy to find them both, but it's something that most people don't know about with issue number 1, which is crazy that there's anything.
Well, it was a thing when the book was first published, right? Like I remember that being talked about initially.
Yeah. I mean,
then here we are 25 years later, and you're still talking about it, thank God, or nobody would remember, because I certainly didn't until you just said it, and I was like, oh, I remember that when I was a kid.
Yeah. Well, it makes a difference that it's on the inside cover. If it were on the cover, I think it would be more in people's minds, like The Walking Dead, how it has the
black and white.
Black and white, yeah. That appears on the cover, so it's easy to track down and easy to differentiate. People have to look a little harder for this because they got to open it up.
So let me ask you this. CGC does not acknowledge the black ink error.
Right.
They don't give it a blue label. They give it a green label.
Green label, yeah.
And this then creates a situation where you can't really tell how many of them are out there. Not that all of them would be slab, just that it's a hell of an indicator, because you don't know how many people slabbed signed books that got a green label.
Yeah.
Because they weren't witnessed. But your best guess is there's probably about 20.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard people say that there's only 10, but it seems they come up for auction often enough that there's got to be a little bit more than that. And that's roughly the same amount that I've heard bandied about for issue 185 too. There's a black and white, extremely rare version of Spawn 185. And I think that's probably the current crown wearer, for Spawn. That's the current holy grail. Because it's well known, it's a key book in the run, and it's a cover variant. That's something that's easy for people to understand. It was an intentional variant. It was
not the East Coast Comic Con variant.
Sorry,
not the what am I saying? The community college variant. I forget.
Oh, well, no, that's another one. 232, I think it is. EWU.
EWU, thank you. I was like, I'm sitting here trying to remember the initials. I'm like, ECU.
Yeah, Eastern Washington University, I think.
Yeah, right. Okay, there we go. I'm about to give you like a regional wrestling league. Like, is it ECW? What is it? Can you tell people about that book?
Yeah, so that was a variant cover that Todd had made for an appearance that he made at his alma mater. So he went back to his school and gave a talk to the students and stuff, and he wanted to have a comic to hand out to everybody.
Sabu did not hit him with a cane. He just signed comic books, right?
So that's what it is. And it was, there were 400 originally. The number is known. Not all the variants have a known number, but this one is known. There were 400 at the start. But you're handing it out in an auditorium to college kids that almost, certainly most of them are not comic book collectors. So they're not treating them like collectors do. They're either very rough with them or they're just throwing them away.
How'd you like to have been the kid who was smart enough to go and pick them up off the ground?
I probably hired that kid because I knew it was happening. And,
oh wow!
And so I contacted all of the comic book stores in the town and said, hey, if you've got any like part-time kids that want to earn an extra $100, I'll pay them. Just go pick up one of these comics for me. And I managed to get 2 doing that.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And probably made some kid's day. But yeah,
that's a great story. I didn't know. Oh man, I'm glad you shared that one with us.
It's super, super rare. It's I think out of those 400, a very small percentage of those survived the night or the week in any sort of good shape. And then on top of that, a lot of people got them signed. And some people like signatures on their books, some people don't. But like them or not, you'll never get that yellow label on CGC or anything like that.
Or a blue one for that matter, unless it's a 0.5.
Yeah. So some people view that as permanently damaged, and that definitely detracts your buying base and I think the value.
Now we hear a lot of ratios thrown around about newsstand spawns, and can you tell people with clarity what the last newsstand issue of Spawn was?
Yeah, so I just this past summer I published a newsstand guide.
It's awesome, for the record.
It's like a 19-page article and checklist telling you everything you ever wanted to know about Spawn newsstands. And I think
it's under the features tab, right?
Yeah, that's right. If
you can tell I've been there.
There it is. So if you click on that newsstand guide there, you'll get everything you ever wanted to know. All the different variants. There's barcode variants, there's sticker variants, and the very last issue, I hope, if I'm remembering correctly, is 134.
Okay. I can see the cover in my head. The purple cover, but I can't remember the stinking number.
Was I right? 137?
137.
137. Oh, man, I'm so close.
It's okay. It is the purple cover.
Credibility there.
We'll be all right. We have a forgiving audience. Hell, half of them already know the answer to my bizarre trivia and are like, why can't you ask questions we don't know? The other half, they just are happy to be here because they've already been drinking and they're not really paying attention that much. So they'll be fans of yours no matter what.
Those ratios that you talked about. So you hear a lot of people say, especially on eBay, that the newsstands are 1 in 100.
But that doesn't make sense because some newsstands are more rare than other newsstands.
For sure, and it's just simply like not true. The cold facts are that both Image Comics and McFarlane have never released numbers for newsstands. So we don't know how many they made. All we can do is hypothesize based on industry standards at the time. But when people put 1:100 in comic speak, that means it's a retailer incentive. They order 100 issues, they get 1 of the rare books, and newsstands were never like that. That's not true. So people can guess that there may be 1/100th of the total print run, but it's just a guess. No one knows except McFarlane, and he's not talking. But that said, they are incredibly rare, especially the later numbers.
Right, and we've seen the price tag on Spawn 1 newsstand go bananas here in the last, a couple weeks. I don't know if initially I was like, I don't think that sale's even real. And then tragically, because this is always what happens, there's a couple real ones thereafter, and I'm just like, son of a bitch. Oh, here we go. Giddy up.
The newsstand issues are not only super hard to find, but they're really, really hard to find in high grade.
Amen.
They, they existed on spinner racks and in grocery stores, and they were not treated the same way that they are in comic shops.
And we're, again, the same age. When we were kids, sure, like the grading scales were loose, but like you didn't want a mangled comic. I didn't want a mangled comic, right? And they were hard to find in decent shape then.
Yeah.
Right? Like I was angry. I'd show up and I'd be like, who was the inconsiderate prick that put down all of these books?
Yeah, you go straight to the back of the rack.
Right, that's where you start. Yeah. I mean, it was just like a horrific thing. I remember these days vividly.
Yeah.
So do we think the distribution is probably the 137 being the most rare, or again, who knows? There may be a rarity like the Curse of Spawn number 17. I mean, I've seen, for example, the newsstand version of and I'm going to screw the number up, but you might be able to do it because you're basically the Rain Man of Spawn Comics, with the green eyes, that just gorgeous black cover. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
A high-grade copy of that sold for some astronomical sum.
I think it's 70.
Okay.
We can check, but let me tell you something. If it is 70, I can tell you why.
That's it.
Nailed it. So
astronomical sum. I think I saw a raw copy of this that was high grade, sell for like $600 on eBay, and I like legitimately had to pick my tongue up off the ground.
And that's not typical. But this issue in particular, 69, 70, and 71, the newsstand issues were put out on the same glossy paper as the direct editions. So unlike most newsstand issues that are printed on newsprint, these 3 issues were printed on glossy. And I don't have any facts to back it up, but my hypothesis is that they were printed in much, much lower quantities.
See me taking notes, guys?
Because it was probably very expensive. My guess is that there was some sort of distribution or supply problem with newsprint at that point in time. And so they had no choice. Their choices were either not put it out or print it on the same stock that they've been using for the direct editions for a short time. And they probably ate some of that cost.
Wow.
And it's not just the main series. Curse of the Spawn during that same time period is also printed on the glossy stock, and those are also super rare. It's just this like fluke in the middle of the run.
And is that the 17, or is that different numbers?
Different numbers, yeah. I can't think of what they are off the top of my head, but the newsstand guide will tell you.
But month and date will be the same.
Will be the same, yeah.
Wow, truly.
Then there's that guy. That's the white whale.
The rarity of all rarities.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Who's your Spawn character? Don't say Spawn. No Al Simmons.
My favorite is Cogliostro. But I really love a certain aspect of Cog that's kind of like fallen by the wayside, and I wish they would bring it back. It's that at one point in the comics, it was revealed that Cog is not his real name. He was Cain of Cain and Abel.
That's early in Spawn lore.
Yeah, he is. I'm gonna guess like early hundreds or somewhere in there.
Yeah, well, it was early enough that I was reading continuously when I learned that.
So yeah, it's said in the comic universe that he's the first sinner. He's the very, very first guy to ever murder someone, his brother Abel, and he became, because of that, then the first Hellspawn, and he holds that against everybody. And I just love that aspect of his character. I think it's great, and they haven't talked about it in a long time. I really wish they'd bring that back, and that's that cool religious background to the stories that I really like.
Yeah, you and I share an affinity for that kind of stuff. I don't know if it was just that, again, like if it's an age thing or how we grew up, but yeah, I find it fascinating.
Yeah.
Sam and Twitch at one point in time were supposed to have a BBC show.
Yeah, with Kevin Smith was supposed to be the showrunner on that.
Yeah, what happened to that?
I don't know. It would have been cool though.
Yeah, it'd been great. I mean, well, come on.
I was
Buying
excited
Sam and
when-
Twitch comics for like in anticipation of that one for like I don't know,
And I was
years.
just imagining like great witty banter between the two
Absolutely.
that Kevin Smith writes. That would be cool.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
could have launched those two into the stratosphere.
Yeah.
I feel like I could ramble on and ask you questions about Spawn, and that you could teach a doctoral class on this stuff. Before we go, I don't want to kind of gloss over your day job, because it's truly something that I find magical, and I don't need to tell you that. Can you talk about what it was like to work with Stan and some of the Marvel legends?
Yeah. So my very first job was working in a comic book shop. I started when I was 13, that same year that Spawn came out, and they took it out of my paycheck. I bought Spawn in trade, so it's a dream come true for me to work in comics and then to get to meet some of these creators that I've idolized, and certainly at the top of anybody's list would be Stan Lee. When this photo that you're showing was taken, I was just a fan. This was at a Comic-Con. I got to meet him, and super cool guy, exactly what you would expect. He wasn't any different off camera than he is on camera. But then I had the great luck and pleasure of getting to work with him a couple times after this photo. So I worked with him on Captain Marvel, and then I worked with him on Endgame, I guess. One of the Infinity. I get them confused because we shot them at the same time. Man, he was just the most amazing guy. Like super fun, super easy to talk to, great to work with. I got to direct a couple lines that he said very briefly. Wow. Man, what a dream come true. I was really lucky.
So Trent, after we end the podcast, you're going to tell me all the secrets about MCU phases 4, 5, and 6, right?
No.
The answer to that question is yes. No, cut camera. No, I'm just kidding.
Marvel Commandos will rappel through my windows and take me out.
The gag orders are real, right? Like it's not shtick from these Hollywood actors.
I salute them. I'm a strict observant of
Amen.
the spoiler policy, and
Amen.
I don't want to ruin it for anybody. I don't want to ruin it for myself. I don't want to learn anything that I don't have to. Even though I work on these movies, I don't work on the whole movie. So I try and keep as much as I can secret from myself so that I can go and see it like a fan.
Yeah, that's beautiful stuff. I hope that we can hustle you into coming back sometime later in the future. This has been awesome. Maybe we could try to get you to join us on some of the other podcasts. Trent Claus, Spawn World, we thank you. This means the world to us.
Well, thanks very much. I love talking comics anytime.
Thank you, my friend.